Bhakti Pavan Maharaj ki jai.
Bandeyam Shri Guru Shri Adha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishkam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timrandasya Gyanajana Shilakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Nama Gurva Bhisham Supurakam Guraganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Abhidam Ujwalam Varatanam Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Navi Bijap Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandabaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shridaram Bansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat by Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur, and with translation by Sarva Bhavana Prabhu from Bengal. And this is Madhya-khanda, Chapter 7, Gadadhar Pandit meets Pundarik Vidyanidhi. The ocean of all transcendental qualities, Lord Chaitanya is the most graceful dancer. He is the Chintamani gem, fulfilling everyone's desire through his divine intervention. Even though I am without qualification, that rarest gem, devotional service unto his lotus feet, has been given to me. All glories to Lord Gaurasundar, the most beloved object of Advaitacharya and Lord Nityananda, and the life and soul of every living entity. He sustains life in Sri Jagadananda Pandit and Sri Garbha. All glories to the crown jewel of the heart of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi. May the Supreme Lord Gaurachandra, who is the Lord and Master of Jagadish and Gopinath, be glorified along with all his dear devotees. Gaurachandra continued to perform his ecstatic pastimes with Nityananda in Navadip. All the Vaishnavas accompanied Advaitacharya, who led them in grand ecstatic dancing and chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Lord Nityananda Prabhu resided in Srivas Pandit's house and constantly exhibited the mood of a young boy. When he sat down to eat, he would not feed himself, but acted like a young boy. Thus Malini, Srivas Pandit's wife, would have to feed him. Now hear of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's arrival in Navadip. Pundarik Prabhu was a very dear associate of Sri Krishna. By the Lord's arrangement, he appeared in the village of Chattagram in East Bengal, purifying that land. However, the Lord himself appeared in Navadip. In the absence of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he sighed heavily, feeling deep separation. One day after ecstatic dancing, the Lord sat down exclaiming, "O my father Pundarik, Bap Pundarik," and began to cry, "O Pundarik, O my father, when will I be able to see you again?" Such was the extent of the Lord's affection for Pundarik Vidyanidhi. In this way, Lord Gaurachandra revealed his intimate associates by performing his wonderful pastimes. All the devotees surrounding the Lord were unable to properly appreciate the name Gaurachandra continued to repeat, and why tears continually flowed from his eyes. They conjectured that Pundarik naturally implied Krishna, and Vidyanidhi could have many different explanations. However, no one understood that this person was a very confidential associate of the Lord. Finally, when the Lord came out of trance, the devotees asked, "Dear Lord, for whom are you weeping? Kindly reveal who he is, his birth and his activities. Tell us, Lord, so we may have the good fortune of knowing him. The Lord replied, since you desire to hear about him, you are certainly fortunate. His activities and character are most wonderful. The whole world can be purified simply by hearing his name. His ecstatic appearance is almost like an ordinary man. Therefore, no one can recognize him as a pure devotee of the Lord. This highly learned scholarly Brahmin was born in Chattogram. He has strictly executed the prescribed religious principles and is respected by everyone. He always floats in the nectarine ocean of love of Krishna, and his body always displays various ecstatic symptoms such as crying and horripilation. He never goes for ablutions in the Ganga to cleanse himself of sin like everyone else, for he will not enter her waters since he avoids touching her with his feet. However, he comes to see and pay his respects to her every day in the evening when the teeming crowds have all gone. He cannot bear to see Mother Ganga disrespected and utilized by people who spit upon her, clean their mouths with her holy waters, and wash their hair and dirty clothes in her. Thus he prefers to come to her in the evenings when there is no one around. Another wonderful characteristic of Pundarik Vidyanidhi is that he always drinks Ganga water before worshiping the Lord and performing all his daily prescribed religious duties. Thereby he demonstrates the greatness of Mother Ganga to all the puffed-up scholars. He is presently in Chattogram, but he is soon coming to Navadip, where he also has a house. None of you will be able to recognize him, as on his first sight one would be inclined to think he is an ordinary materialistic person. I'm very anxious to see him, so all of you must pray and endeavor to bring him here very quickly. Talking about Pundarik Vidyanidhi threw the Lord into an ecstatic trance, and he began to weep, saying, "O my father Pundarik." The Lord lamented loudly, for only he could understand the greatness of such a pure Vaishnava. Through the Lord's mercy only can the wonderful and unique position of a pure devotee be revealed. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself wishes to attract a living entity, the living entity must respond. Thus Pundarik Vidyanidhi suddenly desired to go to Navadip. After making suitable arrangements, he came to Navadip with many disciples. In Navadip he remained in disguise, and all the ordinary men considered him a lavish materialist, attached to a life of comfort and self-enjoyment. With the exception of Mukunda, no one amongst the Vaishnavas knew about Pundarik Vidyanidhi's arrival in Navadip. Sri Mukunda was an Ayurvedic Brahmin doctor who was also born in Chattogram. Thus he knew about the wonderful Vaishnava qualities of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. When Mukunda found out that he was in Navadip, he was so overwhelmed that it was difficult for him to control himself. However, Mukunda did not reveal Pundarik Vidyanidhi's identity to anyone. Thus Pundarik remained a materialistic self-enjoyer in the eyes of the ordinary folks. Only Mukunda and his brother Vasudeva Datta knew about the intensity of Pundarik's love for Krishna. Gadadhar Pandit and Mukunda were very dear friends and always kept each other's company. Mukunda thus told Gadadhar Pandit, "Listen carefully, Gadadhar. A very great devotee has come to Navadip. You have been hankering for the association of pure Vaishnavas, and today your desire will be fulfilled. I will take you to see a wonderful Vaishnav devotee. In return for this, I simply want you to think of me as your dear servant." The excited and happy Gadadhar Pandit called out the name of Krishna as they proceeded towards the great Vaishnava's residence with Mukunda. Arriving there, they found Pundarik Vidyanidhi sitting comfortably. Gadadhar offered his obeisances and was respectfully seated. Vidyanidhi inquired from Mukunda, "What is his name and from which village does he come? I can see that his body is effulgent due to rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Both his form and demeanor are extremely wonderful." "His name is Sri Gadadhar," Mukunda replied. He is very fortunate because from early childhood he has been totally detached from family life. In his external material identity, he is the son of a Brahmin, Sri Madhva Mishra. Since he is absorbed in devotional service, he only associates with Vaishnavas, and he is extremely dear to all the devotees. When he heard about you, he was anxious to meet you. After hearing the wonderful qualities of Gadadhar Pandit, Vidyanidhi was very pleased to meet him. The great personality, Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, sat like a prince. His beautiful bed was made of wood, covered with intricate brass and reddish stone inlay work. Above it were 3 tiers of ornamental drapes made of glittering brocade cloth. He was seated on a soft mattress covered with clean, expensive sheets, and silk pillows were placed under his back. On either side of him, many small and large water pots sat within his reach, as well as a nice shining brass plate with neatly prepared betel pan upon it. 2 large ornate mirrors hung on either side of him, into which he continuously glanced while smiling with lips reddened from chewing pan. He wore a sandalwood paste tilak mark upon his forehead, and his face was decorated with dots made with a mixture of sandalwood and perfume. As for his hair, it was well groomed and shining with delicately perfumed hair oil. 2 persons stood behind him, fanning him gently with long peacock feathers, and in front of him was a nicely prepared hammock. As he followed a life of pure devotional service, he looked as charming as Cupid himself. Those who did not know him would consider him a prince, as everything about him and around him gave the impression that he was a man of the easy and comfortable life given to pleasure. When Gadadhar Pandit saw these luxurious items and a general atmosphere of materialistic life, he became suspicious. Since Gadadhar was a fully renounced soul from his early childhood, naturally some doubts regarding the character of Pundarik Vidyanidhi entered his heart. He thought, what sort of a Vaishnava is he, surrounded by so much finery and lavish living? Hearing about his devotional mood, I developed great respect for this person, but now upon seeing him, it is slowly giving way to doubt and suspicion. Mukunda understood the mind and heart of Gadadhar Pandit. Thus he took it upon himself to reveal the true nature of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. By the special mercy of Lord Krishna, Gadadhar Pandit would be allowed to perceive everything. Nothing would remain unknown to him. In a very sweet voice, Mukunda began to sing a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the glories of devotional service. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putana? Putana was unfaithful and always hankering for the blood of human children. With that desire in mind, she prepared a deadly poison to be sucked from her breast and came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. As soon as these words concerning devotional service entered his ears, Pundarik Vidyanidhi began to weep. Tears of ecstatic love welled up in his eyes, rolling down his face profusely like streams of the Ganga. Simultaneously, all the symptoms of ecstasy manifested in his person. He wept, trembled, rolled, horripilated, roared, and finally fell into an unconscious state of ecstasy. Horripilation means standing of the hairs of the body on end. Then suddenly, regaining consciousness, he said in a loud voice, "Speak, speak, bowl, bowl," and again fell down to the ground. Agitated with spiritual emotions, he kicked everything that was near him, and all the luxurious paraphernalia went crashing to the ground. The shining brass pots of water, the container of betel pan, pillows, bed sheets, everything became a confused jumble. He began tearing his fine clothes, and his well-groomed hair went haywire as he wept and rolled in the dust. He cried out, "O Krishna, my Lord, my soul, my very life, you have made me hard-hearted like a stone." He lamented loudly, piteously crying out, I have been deprived of the Lord's association in his most merciful incarnation. He rolled around and crashed down to the ground. Everyone was afraid he might break his bones. He trembled so violently that 3 persons could not hold him down. He kicked everything that was in his way as his disciples stood by helplessly, unable to control him. In this way, the storm of ecstatic love continued until it finally abated and he fell into an unconscious state of bliss. He lay down without breathing, totally submerged in an ocean of spiritual ecstasy. Amazed at what he had witnessed, Gadadhar Pandit began to worry, thinking, what inauspiciousness has overcome me to make me think in such an offensive manner about this great personality. He embraced Mukunda, being extremely pleased with him, drenching him with tears of love. He said, Mukunda, you have acted like a true friend, and you have shown me a pure and unalloyed devotee of the Lord. It would be difficult to find another pure Vaishnava like him anywhere in this entire creation. One can become totally purified only by observing his devotional attitude. Today, because you are right next to me, I have been able to avoid a great catastrophe. When I saw all the luxurious paraphernalia surrounding Pundarik Vidyanidhi, I was convinced that he was a materialistic Vaishnava given to the pleasures of life. You could read my mind, and being a greatly magnanimous soul, you have revealed to me the unlimited extent of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's love of Krishna. Yet today I have been offensive, and the extent of my offense can only be mitigated by your mercy. You must be merciful to me and purify my heart. All the devotees who have surrendered to the Lord by the process of devotional service have accepted the shelter and instructions of a guide. Yet I do not have such an instructor, so I have decided to take shelter of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and follow devotional service under his guidance. I shall counteract all my offenses to him by becoming his disciple. Thus Gadadhar Pandit revealed to Mukunda his desire to become a disciple of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Mukunda was extremely pleased with the decision and patted him on the back, saying, very good, very good. Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi was in a state of ecstatic oblivion for 6 hours. Gradually, he returned to his normal state and sat down quietly. It was impossible for Gadadhar Pandit to control the tears of joy which rolled profusely down his face, wetting his entire body. When Sri Vidyanidhi saw this, he embraced Gadadhar Pandit, holding him to his heart. Overwhelmed by Pundarik Vidyanidhi's ecstatic devotion, Gadadhar was unable to speak. Mukunda spoke up, revealing Gadadhar's mind. Doubt arose in Gadadhar's mind when he first saw your extravagant appearance and surroundings. But now he is repentant and wants to accept initiation from you. He is a renounced devotee of the Lord. Although he is young, he is mature in spiritual realization and comes from the very good family of Sri Madhva Mishra. From early childhood, he has been attached to the Supreme Lord. I think this is a very good match. Most elevated spiritual masters such as Pundarik Vidyanidhi having an equally able disciple like Gadadhar Pandit. Please consider these points and choose an auspicious day to initiate him with your Diksha mantra. Pundarik Vidyanidhi smiled and said, be assured that I will do as you request, for by the Lord's mercy it is my great fortune to meet a person who is like a precious gem. Such a disciple may be found only as a result of many lifetimes of pious activities. The forthcoming 12th day of the waxing moon is very auspicious. Meet me here then, and your plan will become successful. Overjoyed, Gadadhar Pandit offered his obeisances and took leave of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Mukunda and Gadadhar went straight to meet Lord Gaurachandra, who happily received the news of Pundarik Vidyanidhi's arrival. During the night, without being seen by anyone, Pundarik left all his associates behind and came to the place of Lord Gaurachandra. As soon as he saw the Lord, he fell down like a rod, offering his obeisances to the Lord. Overwhelmed with ecstatic trance, he lay on the ground, experiencing waves of joy. Shortly afterwards, he regained external consciousness and roared loudly. Then, pouring scorn upon himself, he began to weep, saying, "O my dear Krishna, you are my Lord and Father. I am a great offender. Please punish this wretch. O Lord, you have liberated everyone in the world. Only I have been deprived of such good fortune." Hearing his lamentation, all the assembled Vaishnavas, who immediately perceived Pundarik Vidyanidhi to be a great and elevated Vaishnava, felt greatly pained and began to cry. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, is especially inclined to his pure devotees. Therefore, upon seeing his beloved devotee, he got up and embraced him. Crying, the Lord said, "O my father, Pundarik, finally I am able to see you today." The Vaishnavas were overjoyed to have the association of such an elevated devotee as Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and their eyes filled with tears. So wonderful was the scene that no pen could possibly offer a description. Lord Gaurasundar held Pundarik Vidyanidhi in a loving embrace, wetting him with his tears. Understanding how dear Pundarik was to the Lord, the devotees immediately felt affection, respect, and a tie of kinship with him. The Lord continued to hold Pundarik Vidyanidhi tightly, as if he wanted to merge his body into his. For 3 hours the Lord was unable to move, and remaining like a statue, he held Vidyanidhi in his close embrace. When the Lord came out of trance, he began to chant the name of Hari and said, "Today Lord Krishna has been very merciful to me. He has fulfilled all my desires, for I have met the person of my heart's desire." Pundarik Vidyanidhi greeted all the Vaishnavas fondly, and they began to chant the holy name together. The Lord then introduced Pundarik, saying, "His name is Pundarik Vidyanidhi. The Lord has specially created him to distribute Krishna Prem." Hearing this, the devotees happily responded by lifting their arms and chanting, "Hari, Hari." The Lord said, "Today is a special day. A wonderful thing has happened. I woke up from sleep and my eyes beheld the ocean of Krishna Prem directly in person." All this went on while Pundarik Vidyanidhi was absorbed within himself in an ecstatic trance, unaware of his immediate external surroundings. Thereafter, he came out of his trance and became aware of the devotees around him. Immediately, he again offered obeisances to the Lord and then to Advaitacharya Prabhu and exchanged love and devotion with all the Vaishnavas. It was a glorious scene as all the devotees floated on waves of ecstasy, thrilled to have met Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who himself is an ocean of Krishna Prem. Only an extremely pious and fortunate person is able to describe this marvelous scene. Gadadhar Pandit took Sri Vishwambar's permission to accept initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Gadadhar said, "I could not understand the uncommon behavior of this great personality, and so I became disrespectful. Therefore, in order to cleanse myself of this sin, I want to become his disciple, for certainly as my spiritual master, he will pardon me." Appreciating Gadadhar Pandit's mood, the Lord said, "Yes, perform the initiation quickly." Thus Gadadhar Pandit formally accepted initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi, the ocean of ecstatic loving devotion, with great satisfaction. What ability do I have to speak about the wonderful qualities of Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi? For he was such an elevated Vaishnava that even Gadadhar Pandit was his disciple. I have narrated only in short this wonderful pastime of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. I hanker and hope that one day I will be able to have his sight and association. Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Gadadhar were the ideal spiritual master and disciple, and are both clearly beloved of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. and are both clearly beloved of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Whoever hears or reads of this meeting between Gadadhar Pandit and Pundarik Vidyanidhi will gradually experience the highest ecstasies of Krishna Prema. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, offer my humble song at their lotus feet. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 7. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jarmui Taradas. H.I. Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame More Abhilas. Janame More Abhilas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Badsha Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Badsha Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamadas. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. 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 Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhar Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Paramajaka Tatara Satashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Paramajaka Tatara Satashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupa Nuga Guru Marga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath. Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopika Vrindan Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Shri Sureshri Devidasi Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.